The drama started when Terence "Bud" Crawford, arguably one of the most technically brilliant fighters of his generation, was spotted training with Tank Davis ahead of the Jake Paul fight. The two champions shared techniques, exchanged ideas, and even discussed potential strategies. Crawford, ever the technician, saw in Tank a kindred spirit, a fighter with lethal instincts and natural power who could mix precision with unpredictability. Reports say Crawford even told him, half-jokingly, that if Tank ever wanted to test himself against him, he'd welcome it. Not out of rivalry, but out of respect for the art of boxing itself. That exchange sparked curiosity. What if the pound-for-pound king and the knockout artist ever crossed paths for real? But before anyone could dream about Crawford versus Davis, the focus returned to the bizarre showdown at hand. Tank's only real disadvantage, if you could even call it that, is his height. Standing at 5 feet 5 inches with a 67-inch reach, he's a compact powerhouse, built like a coiled spring ready to explode. Jake Paul, on the other hand, towers over him, walking around near cruiserweight territory, easily tipping 200 pounds. Yet Tank's training clips show something different this time. He's been working on footwork, shifting angles, and even switching stances mid-combination, a level of versatility reminiscent of Crawford himself. The message is clear. He's preparing for something unpredictable, something that will demand every ounce of creativity he has in the ring. Commentators like Showbiz the Adult have warned that this fight cannot afford to be dull. The audience expects fireworks, not a friendly sparring match. If Tank and Jake turn the spectacle into a cautious exhibition, it could ruin them both. Career-ending, some have said, not because of the physical risk, but because of the public perception. The fans who tune in for chaos won't tolerate a staged performance. For both men, this isn't just about victory, it's about survival in the eyes of the public. Boxing purists are conflicted. On one hand, they view Tank as one of the most talented fighters of his generation, a master of timing, counterpunching, and raw power. On the other hand, they see this fight as a betrayal, a descent into the circus Jake Paul has built. The size difference alone makes it controversial. Jake's natural weight is near cruiserweight, while Tank fights between lightweight and super lightweight, around 135 to 140 pounds. That's a 60 to 70 pound gap, almost absurd in the professional boxing world, where divisions exist precisely to prevent such mismatches. But money talks louder than weight classes, and when numbers like $100 million are mentioned, ideals start to bend. Critics argue that fights like these erode boxing's integrity. They turn the sport into theater, an influencer sideshow where entertainment trumps athletic achievement. Yet, others point out that it's this very chaos keeping the sport alive in the public eye. People who haven't watched boxing in years are suddenly paying attention again, not because they care who's technically better, but because they want to see what happens when order meets madness. Still, many fans feel betrayed. They've waited years for Tank to face Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, or other elite contenders. Instead, they're getting Jake Paul, a YouTuber-turned-boxer who built his fame on viral knockouts and controversy. Clarissa Shields, never one to hold back, even said the only fight that makes sense for Tank is against Shakur. But Tank's response was sharp and unapologetic. No one tells him what to do. If fans want to be fans, then they should just be fans, not managers. After being criticized following his draw against Lamont Roach, Tank's patience for outside opinions has evaporated. His new mindset is defiant. He fights on his terms, not for anyone's approval. Behind the scenes, there's a growing theory among boxing insiders that Crawford, Shields, and Stevenson form a kind of bud-buddy alliance, a circle of fighters who share mutual respect and strategy, but also collectively shape narratives around others. Some analysts believe Shields' comments were less about Tank's career and more about positioning Shakur for future opportunities. Whether true or not, it reveals how layered and political modern boxing has become. Even so, the real debate is about what this fight means for the sport's future. If Jake Paul wins, it could open the floodgates for influencer-style fights to dominate headlines, overshadowing genuine championship bouts. It would reinforce the idea that boxing is more about marketability than mastery. But if Tank wins, and wins decisively, it could restore balance, reminding the world that discipline and craft still reign supreme over spectacle. The weight difference, though, remains a dangerous unknown. On fight night, Jake could step into the ring at over 210 pounds, while Tank will likely hover around 145. It's a David versus Goliath story, reminiscent of when David Haye fought the 7-foot, 316-pound Nikolai Valuev back in 2009. Hay won that fight through speed, timing, and precision. Proof that skill can sometimes conquer size. But the risk is enormous. One mistake, one mistimed slip, and Tank could find himself crushed under Jake's sheer physical force. Eddie Hearn, one of boxing's most influential promoters, didn't mince words. He called the matchup a freak show, warning that blending boxing and entertainment is a slippery slope. Boxing loses its identity when it becomes spectacle, he said. Hearn's not wrong. The business side of boxing has always wrestled with purity. The sport thrives on hype, but too much spectacle and it becomes something else entirely. A show, not a competition. Yet, he also admitted the uncomfortable truth. It'll sell. It might even break records. Because as much as purists hate it, people love watching chaos. Former champion Shawn Porter offered a more human take. He admitted that Jake's rise has given many fighters financial opportunities they never thought possible. Boxing doesn't love you back, he said. So if you can get that kind of payday, go get it. Porter's realism cuts through the noise. At its core, boxing has always been about survival, inside the ring and outside of it. For many fighters, the line between legacy and livelihood gets thinner every year. Still, there's a sadness in how things have shifted. Boxing used to be about the climb, the grind toward respect and belts and glory. Now, it's often about the spectacle that sells. But Tank's situation is unique. He's not washed up or desperate. He's in his prime, one of the most explosive fighters alive, and yet he's stepping into a fight that might do more for social media algorithms than for boxing history. As the bell approaches, everyone, fans, critics, and promoters alike, feels the tension. Will skill conquer size? Or will spectacle swallow sport? Maybe both. Because like it or not, this fight represents where boxing is heading. A collision between old-school purity and new-age showmanship. It's not just Tank versus Jake, it's boxing versus its own reflection. If you've made it this far, I want to hear from you. Do you think Tank Davis can overcome Jake Paul's size and prove that skill still beats spectacle? Or is this the beginning of boxing's new, chaotic era where entertainment wins over discipline? Let us know your thoughts below, and if you love this kind of deep dive into the drama behind modern boxing, hit that like button, subscribe, and join us for more stories where legacy, power, and pride collide inside the ring.